Eli woke slowly, as if climbing out of a deep ocean of sleep. The station lights were only beginning to glow, soft and pale, like the first touch of dawn on Earth. His mind felt heavy, and for a moment he did not remember where he was or what day it was. He simply breathed, listening to the gentle hum of the life support systems around him. It was peaceful, unusually peaceful for a space station that always echoed with footsteps and machinery. But something felt different. Something felt close. His eyes opened fully, and the first thing he saw made his heart jump. Sitting right beside his bunk, almost close enough to touch, was Vara, his alien roommate. Her tall, slender form was still like a statue, and her silver skin reflected the dim light. Usually she sat across the room, near her own side, keeping space between them the way her culture preferred. But today she was only inches away from him. And she was watching him. Eli blinked, his pulse quickened. He tried to sit up, confused, but her voice stopped him. "Do not move quickly," she whispered. "You were dreaming loudly." Her voice was soft, almost fragile. Vara was never fragile. She was a trained scout of her species, strong and stoic, with eyes that rarely showed emotion. Yet now her glowing blue eyes looked unsure, almost troubled. Eli rubbed a hand over his face. "Sorry," he murmured. "Bad dream, I guess." Vara tilted her head slightly. "Not guess, it was clear you cried out." He felt embarrassment rise in his chest, but there was something deeper beneath it, curiosity. Vara had never woken him before. She respected boundaries more strictly than any human he had ever met. The fact that she sat so close meant something was wrong. "What's going on?" he asked gently. "You look worried." Vara's gaze wavered, and for a moment she did not speak. Her fingers moved slowly across the edge of his blanket, tracing the lines as if searching for courage. When she finally lifted her eyes to meet his, he felt a strange heaviness in the air. "Eli," she whispered, "may I ask you something important?" Her tone was so serious, so quiet, that it instantly pushed away the last pieces of sleep from his mind. He shifted, sitting up carefully so he could face her properly. "Of course," he said softly, "ask anything." Vara inhaled deeply, though her kind did not need to breathe as often as humans. It was a gesture she had learned from observing people, something she did when she felt overwhelmed. Why do humans choose to protect others, even if it causes them pain? Eli froze. The question struck him like a sudden cold wind. He expected her to ask about her assignment or the malfunctioning water purifier or some cultural confusion she often had. But not this. Not something so personal, not something that touched a wound he kept hidden. He opened his mouth, but no words came out for several seconds. Vara continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "You risked yourself for a stranger once. I have watched many humans do the same. It is a choice I do not understand. It frightens me." Eli swallowed hard. The memory she referenced, the mission where he had nearly lost his arm, flashed in his mind like a scar that still burned. He didn't like talking about it. He didn't like remembering the fear, the fire, the pain. He had convinced himself that it was just instinct, not heroism. But Vara's eyes were searching him, asking for truth. She leaned a little closer, her posture tight, as if bracing for his answer. "Please," she said, softer than he had ever heard her, "tell me why." The room felt smaller suddenly, the air heavier. Eli could hear the faint buzz of the station lights above them. He knew she wasn't asking out of curiosity. There was something behind her question, something urgent and hidden, something that made her silver skin ripple with subtle tremors. Eli exhaled slowly. He realized then that this morning was not ordinary at all. It was the beginning of something deeper, something dangerous, something that would change both of their lives. He finally met her eyes. "Vara," he said quietly, "you're not just asking about humans, are you?" Vara looked away, her voice trembling as she answered. "No, I am asking about myself." For a long moment the room stayed painfully quiet. Vara's words hung in the air like a fragile thread stretching between them. Eli felt his heartbeat slow, heavy and uneasy. He had known Vara for almost a year, lived with her, ate with her, shared the small routines of space life with her, but never had he heard her voice shake like that. She wasn't only curious. She was afraid. Eli sat back against the wall, trying to calm the sudden tension inside him. He studied her carefully. Her silver skin had dimmed to a darker shade, a sign of distress in her species. Her glowing blue eyes were fixed on the floor, unable to meet his. She looked small, even though she was taller than him. She looked like someone carrying something heavy. "Vara," he began softly, "what's really going on? Why are you asking this now?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she closed her eyes, breathing slowly, her shoulders rising and falling like waves. The movement reminded Eli of how she meditated during storms, calm outside, chaos inside. "I watched your dream," she finally whispered. "Not on purpose, your voice was loud, you said, 'Not again.'" Eli felt heat rush to his face. That dream again. Flames, smoke, metal twisted around him. The moment he had pulled a wounded stranger out from a collapsing corridor, the explosion that followed, the pain, the fear, the guilt. He had shouted, "Not again," because he had been remembering a day long before that. Another moment of helplessness, another failure he never spoke of. "I'm sorry," Vara added quietly. "I should not have listened, but it hurt to hear your fear." Eli rubbed a hand through his hair, trying to find the right words. "It's complicated." Vara lifted her eyes slowly. Humans always say that when they hide sadness. Her accuracy struck him harder than he expected. She had learned so much about people, too much maybe. "Look," he said gently, forcing himself to continue. "You asked why humans protect others, even if it hurts them." She nodded. He took a deep breath. "It's because sometimes we know what pain feels like, and we don't want someone else to feel the same." Vara's expression softened, her eyes widening just a little. "So you protect to stop pain from repeating?" "Yes," he said quietly. "Even if we get hurt, even if we're scared. Some people would rather break themselves than watch someone else break." Vara lowered her head. For a moment, her hands trembled, and she clasped them together tightly, as if trying to keep something inside. "That is what I feared," she whispered. Eli frowned. "Feared why?" She exhaled slowly. "Because I must make a choice today, and I do not want to hurt anyone." Her voice cracked near the end, a small, painful sound Eli had never heard from her before. "What choice?" he asked. Vara hesitated, eyes shifting again, the silver of her skin flickering with faint ripples, like moonlight over disturbed water. "My people sent a message last night," she said. "They want me to return home." Eli felt a cold shock run through him. "Return now? Why so suddenly?" "There is conflict coming," she explained, voice barely steady. "A war on the outer colonies. They need scouts. They need my skills. They expect me to serve." Eli stared at her, stunned. "But you don't want to go." "No," she whispered. "I do not." Her voice carried so much fear, so much honesty, that Eli felt it like a punch to his chest. "But I am afraid to stay," she admitted. "If I refuse, my people may send others. They may think I am compromised by humans." Eli swallowed hard. "Compromised just because you learned about peace." "Because I learned about choice," she corrected softly. "Human choice." She looked directly into his eyes now, the glow in her gaze trembling. "My people do not understand choosing your own path. They only understand duty. If I stay, they may blame you." Eli felt something tighten inside him. Anger, fear, protectiveness, all blending into one emotion. "You're scared of hurting me," he said softly. Vara nodded, eyes glistening. "Yes." For a moment, neither spoke. The small room felt too quiet, as if the walls were listening. Then Eli exhaled slowly, steadying his voice. "You're not responsible for protecting me from your people," he said. "And you don't have to sacrifice your life for something you don't believe in." Her breath caught. "But humans protect those they care about. Should I not do the same?" Eli reached out and gently placed a hand on hers. "You're not human," he said softly, "but you care like one." Vara's eyes shined, full of something deep and painful and beautiful. And in that moment, Eli realized the truth. Her question wasn't just curiosity. It was a cry for help. And he wasn't going to ignore it. The room felt colder suddenly, though the station's temperature was steady. Eli noticed the small shiver that ran through Vara's tall frame, her silver skin dimming slightly as though reflecting the weight of the decision she carried. He had never seen her like this, vulnerable, uncertain, almost human. The realization struck him hard. He had thought aliens were untouchable, unshakable, but here she was, trembling with a fear he could understand because he had felt it too. Vara, he said softly, if this is about leaving about them. He paused, searching for the right words. Then tell me, why does it scare you so much? She exhaled slowly, a sound like wind passing through ice. Her glowing eyes met his, shining with a strange mix of fear and longing. My people, they have rules, orders, duty is everything. To refuse is to dishonor oneself, or worse. Her voice faltered. I cannot explain it as you would, but I fear disobedience. I fear the punishment. Eli nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. He had read about their kind, seen videos, studied reports. Vara's species valued obedience above all else. Yet he also saw something new, something that belonged to her, not to her people. Hesitation, doubt, a desire to make her own choice. That was a dangerous feeling for someone like her. Dangerous and rare. But you've lived with humans, he said, trying to offer reassurance. And you've learned what it means to choose for yourself. Vara's eyes flickered almost painfully. Yes, but choice brings consequences I do not fully understand. My people do not forgive hesitation. They do not forgive failure. If I stay here, they may send others to retrieve me by force. Eli's chest tightened, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. And what about your heart, Vara? What do you want? She looked down, tracing the edge of the blanket with her fingers. Peace, she whispered. Safety, something I never had among my own people, something I learned here from humans. Her voice was small, fragile, and yet it carried the weight of a soldier carrying 1,000 battles. I want to stay. I want to help, to live, to learn. He felt a surge of protectiveness, mingled with fear. You've done more than your people could imagine, he said. You've learned humanity, compassion, courage, love in ways they cannot comprehend. That is strength. Vara's eyes shimmered with an emotion he couldn't name. Relief, fear, hope, perhaps all of them at once. I never knew strength could feel like this, she admitted softly. Eli leaned forward, voice steady but gentle. Then maybe it's time you choose for yourself. Not for them, not for duty, not for fear, but for you. She blinked slowly, absorbing his words. Her hands stopped trembling, but her breath remained shallow. She had lived her whole life as a soldier, trained to obey, taught never to question orders. To even consider defying them now, it was terrifying. Eli, she said finally, her voice breaking. If I do this, if I choose to stay, you risk everything. Your life, your future. You could be caught in the middle of a conflict you cannot escape. He shook his head firmly. I've lived with you long enough to know one truth. Humans don't run from those they care about. And I care about you, Vara. I will face anything, any danger, if it keeps you safe. Her lips parted slightly, and for a moment she looked like a child learning trust for the first time. Why? She whispered. Why would a human risk themselves for me? Eli's eyes softened, and he smiled faintly, almost sadly. Because protecting someone, even at the cost of ourselves, that's what makes us human. And because I can't stand the thought of losing you to fear and rules that you don't believe in. For the first time, Vara's body relaxed. A faint glow returned to her skin, warmer, softer, like sunlight touching silver metal. Her hands hovered over his for a moment, unsure if she could bridge the gap between fear and courage. Then, slowly, she placed one hand lightly on his. I want to be brave, she said, voice trembling, but I do not know how. You've already begun, he said gently. Being brave is not about fighting wars or obeying orders. It's about standing for yourself, even when the world expects you to do otherwise. Vara's eyes met his fully now, no hesitation, no doubt, only a fragile hope. For the first time, she realized that fear could exist alongside courage, and that strength wasn't only in obedience, it was in choice. The room grew silent, but it was no longer heavy. It was a quiet kind of promise, a fragile beginning. Both of them felt it, the unspoken understanding that life had shifted. Nothing would be the same after this morning. The weight of duty, fear, and expectation was still there, but it was no longer crushing her. Choice had returned, fragile and powerful, and with it something more, hope. Eli reached out again, letting his hand brush hers. You don't have to face this alone, he whispered. Vara nodded, and for the first time the shimmer in her eyes was not fear. It was determination. And in that moment, a bond unspoken but unbreakable formed between them, one built not on orders or duty or fear, but on something far stronger, trust. And trust, Eli realized, could be the fiercest kind of courage there was. The soft hum of the station suddenly seemed louder, echoing through the narrow room as if announcing that their fragile peace might not last. Eli could feel a tension in the air, something heavier than fear, something approaching, unseen but powerful. Vara sat beside him, her silver skin dimmed slightly, her body tense, yet she no longer trembled like before. Her blue eyes glimmered with a strange mixture of hope and apprehension. "The message came last night," she said softly, her voice almost swallowed by the hum of the station. "They know, my people know I am choosing to stay." Her words were simple, but the weight behind them pressed on Eli's chest like a stone. Eli's stomach tightened. "And what will they do?" he asked carefully. His voice felt small, almost fragile in the quiet room. He had read reports about her species, their discipline, their ruthlessness. Defiance was not tolerated. Those who disobeyed were eliminated. The thought made him shiver. "They will send others," Vara admitted. "Forcefully, if needed. They think humans can influence me. They will not accept my choice." Her eyes flicked to the window, to the vast, silent void outside, where distant stars shimmered indifferently. "I do not know if I can stop them." Eli placed his hand over hers again. He could feel the warmth beneath her cold exterior, the pulse of someone caught between worlds, torn between duty and desire. "Then we stop them," he said simply, with a calmness he did not entirely feel. "Together." Vara's gaze met his. You would risk yourself for me?" There was disbelief, fear, and something fragile like hope woven into her voice. "I already do," Eli said firmly. "Humans protect those they care about, that's who we are. And I care about you, Vara, you're not alone in this." Her shoulders tensed, her fingers squeezing his lightly. She had never been touched like this, never experienced comfort so direct, so human. For her, touch was transactional, functional, or formal. But now it was an anchor. She felt something unfamiliar but strong, trust. Before she could respond, the station alarms blared suddenly. Red lights flashed across the room. Eli and Vara jumped instinctively, hearts racing. The piercing sound echoed through the corridors, bouncing off metal walls. "Incoming vessel," the station AI announced in a cold monotone. "Unknown origin, possible hostile intent." Vara's eyes widened, and for the first time Eli saw genuine fear flash across her face. "It is them," she whispered. "They came for me." Eli's mind raced. He had expected this day to come, had prepared for it mentally, but now that it was here, reality hit harder than anticipated. His gaze darted to her, silver skin glowing faintly under the alarm lights. "Then we face them," he said softly but firmly. "Whatever comes, we face it together." Her breath caught. "It is dangerous. You do not understand. They're ships. They destroy everything in their path." Her hands shook slightly, and she looked as fragile as a human for the first time. "I do understand enough," Eli said. "I understand that I can't let them take you without a fight. That's all that matters right now." Vara's eyes glimmered with tears, not out of sorrow but relief. The reassurance that someone else would stand with her, someone willing to risk everything, was almost overwhelming. "Eli, why do you care so much?" she asked, her voice barely audible over the alarm. He smiled faintly, almost sadly. "Because protecting others, even at our own risk, that's human nature. And you've shown me something rare. That courage isn't about obedience or strength or weapons. It's about choice. You chose yourself today, Vara, and that makes you worth protecting." The alarm continued to wail, the red lights painting the room in urgency. Vara rose slowly, her body glowing more brightly, her training taking over her fear. She was still vulnerable, still uncertain. But now she carried Eli's courage with her, an unspoken bond that neither of them could deny. "Their ship will be here soon," she said, voice steadying. "If we do not act," she did not finish the sentence. Words were unnecessary, they both knew the stakes. Eli took a deep breath. "Then we act," he said. "Together, no running, no hiding, we protect each other, and whatever comes, we face it as humans and something more." Vara nodded. Her fingers brushed his one last time, a silent promise. She had never felt so alive nor so terrified. The vulnerability of their moment together gave her a strange strength, the courage to defy not only her people but her own fears. As the red lights pulsed and the hum of the station grew louder, Eli realized that this day, this moment, would define everything. Fear and hope intertwined like the stars outside, infinite and indifferent, yet beautiful. And in that fragile space between them, two beings from entirely different worlds prepared to face the impossible. The vessel appeared suddenly on the viewport, dark and glimmering, approaching fast. Eli's pulse raced. Vara's eyes met his, steady now, unwavering. This was no longer about questions or choices. This was survival. And for the first time, both of them knew, whatever happened next, they would face it together. The alarms blared, shaking the station with harsh, metallic vibrations. Eli's heart thudded painfully against his ribs as he watched the dark shape of the alien vessel grow larger on the viewport. Vara stood beside him, her silver skin shimmering faintly under the red emergency lights. She looked calm on the surface, but Eli could feel the tension in her muscles, the quick rhythm of her pulse beneath her thin armor. He had never seen her like this, so fragile, so human, yet so dangerous. "They are coming," Vara said, her voice low, almost a whisper. "If they find me here, if I stay, they will not hesitate. They believe humans can influence me. They will remove me by force." Eli's jaw tightened. "And we're not going to let that happen," he said, stepping closer to her. "I don't care who they are, I don't care how strong they are, you're not going anywhere without a fight." Vara turned to him, eyes wide and glowing. You risk everything for me?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Your life, your future." "Yes," Eli said firmly. "I already do. Humans protect those we care about, that's who we are, and I care about you, Vara, more than you realize." Her breath caught. For the first time, Eli noticed the slight quiver in her shoulders, the way her hands hovered in hesitation before brushing against his. The moment was fragile, almost sacred, yet deadly urgent. Outside, the alien ship glimmered, enormous and threatening, and every second counted. "I cannot ask you to do this," Vara whispered. "I cannot risk your life. You have already helped me more than any human or alien ever could." "You're not asking," Eli said softly. "You're showing me what courage really looks like, and if courage is what you need, then I'll follow you no matter the danger." Vara's lips trembled, but she finally nodded. "Then we must prepare," she said, voice steadying as her training took over. "They will board the station. I do not know how many will come, but I will stand with you." Eli felt a rush of warmth, a fierce protectiveness he couldn't contain. "And I will stand with you," he said. "We protect each other, no matter what." The station's PA crackled. "Warning, hostile vessel detected. Shields offline. Boarders may arrive within minutes." The voice was cold, mechanical, and final. Eli felt a cold knot of fear tighten in his stomach. Vara's eyes flickered toward the viewport. "They are here," she said simply. Her voice carried the calm precision of a soldier, but Eli could hear the human fear underneath. She was facing an impossible choice, yet she was choosing courage. Suddenly, a hatch on the far side of the station hissed open. A sharp blue light cut across the hallway. Figures moved with precision, alien shapes taller and darker than any human, moving like predators. Vara's eyes narrowed, her fingers flexing. Eli felt his own pulse quicken. "Stay behind me," she said, her voice steady but gentle. "I will protect you first." Eli shook his head. "No," he said. "We face this together, that's the point. I'm not hiding, you're not hiding, we fight together." Vara looked at him, her glowing eyes reflecting something deep, astonishment, fear, and perhaps admiration. "You are human, and yet fearless in a way my people cannot understand." "And you," Eli replied, "have learned something they will never teach you. That choice is stronger than obedience. Courage is stronger than fear, and today we use both." She nodded, taking a deep breath, the soft hum of the station beneath them and the red lights reflecting on her silver skin. Her hands reached for his, briefly touching, just enough to convey trust, alliance, and an unspoken promise. The first boarder stepped into the room, a shadowy figure with glowing eyes. Eli felt his pulse spike. Vara moved first, her body a blur of grace and precision. Yet she hesitated ever so slightly, just enough for Eli to act. Together, they moved as one, human and alien, synchronized in instinct and trust. For the first time, Eli understood something profound. Courage was not born from training alone, nor from duty. Courage was born in choice, in the willingness to face impossible odds for someone you cared about. Vara's choice to stay, her choice to fight alongside him, had made them stronger than either of them had imagined. And as the shadows of the borders filled the room, Eli realized one truth. Sometimes the bravest thing a human or alien could do was to stand for someone else. No matter the danger, no matter the cost. He met Vara's eyes, and in that instant there was no fear, only trust, only determination. The battle was about to begin. The alien boarders moved silently through the corridors, their tall forms cutting shadows against the dim lights of the station. Eli's chest pounded in rhythm with the distant alarms. Vara stood beside him, her silver skin glowing faintly, and her eyes were sharper now, focused, alert, ready. Every movement she made reflected a lifetime of training. Yet beneath that calm exterior, Eli could feel the same fear he carried, a fear of losing everything in a moment. "They will not stop," Vara whispered. "They believe obedience is stronger than all else. They will take me, even if it destroys this station." Eli nodded, trying to steady himself. "Let them try," he said firmly. "They don't know what it means to face someone who chooses their own path. They don't understand humans or me." Vara looked at him sharply. "You understand more than you realize." He met her gaze, steady and unwavering. "Then let's show them. Humanity doesn't bend to fear. Humanity protects those we care about." The first boarder appeared at the doorway, a towering figure with sleek black armor and glowing blue eyes. It paused, scanning the room, and then advanced. Vara moved instinctively, her movements elegant, precise. She was fast, stronger than any human, but Eli did not step back. He raised his stance, heart pounding, and prepared to act. "This is our choice," he whispered almost to himself. "We face this together." Vara's hand brushed his briefly, a small gesture that carried enormous weight. They were not merely human and alien. They were allies, standing side by side, two beings from different worlds united by trust, courage, and something deeper than duty. The boarder lunged. Vara moved first, intercepting with agility that stunned Eli. She deflected the figure's strike, sending it staggering back. Then Eli acted, throwing a quick series of motions that he had practiced in training simulations. He was slower, less precise, but he relied on his instincts and his courage. Together, they moved like a single entity, Vara striking with perfection, Eli supporting her with human tenacity and unpredictable improvisation. More boarders appeared, but the station's corridors were narrow. The confined space gave them an advantage. Vara's speed combined with Eli's unpredictability made them nearly untouchable. The attackers faltered, their synchronization broken. For a moment, Eli realized something profound. Courage and heart could surpass training and strength. "This is humanity," he muttered almost to himself. "We fight even when we are afraid. We protect even when it costs us." Vara's eyes glimmered as she watched him, awe and respect reflecting in her glowing blue gaze. "Your heart, it is unlike anything I have known," she whispered. "This is why humans are dangerous. You do not fear choice because you understand love and duty are stronger than fear itself." Eli felt a rush of emotion he could not name. Relief, pride, love, hope, all intertwined into one burning force. "And this," he said softly, "is why you chose to stay. Courage isn't obedience. Courage is choosing who you want to be." Vara's lips curved into a faint, almost shy smile. "Then together we are unstoppable." As more boarders pressed forward, their numbers overwhelming, the station's communication panel crackled to life. A booming alien voice echoed through the speakers. "Return the scout immediately. Your interference is unacceptable." Eli gripped the microphone. "She is not your property," he said firmly, his voice echoing through the station. "She chooses her own path. You may try to take her by force, but humans do not give up on those we care about. We fight. We protect. And she will not go with you unless she chooses." The voice hissed, heavy with authority. "You endanger her. You are defying an entire species." "I am human," Eli replied calmly, though his heart pounded. "We do not obey blindly. We do not abandon those who matter to us. If you want her, you will have to face that." There was a long, tense silence, broken only by the distant hum of the station. Eli and Vara stood together, side by side, their breathing steady, their resolve unwavering. Then finally the voice responded, colder but resigned. "Your path is your own. We will not force her. We leave." The alien vessel retreated, fatting into the darkness of space. The remaining boarders paused, and then silence returned to the station, heavier now with relief than fear. Eli let out a long breath, feeling his knees weaken as adrenaline left his body. Vara's hand found his again, warm and firm, and this time it was not for protection. It was for comfort. You stood with me," Vara whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Even knowing the danger, why?" "Because that is what humans do," Eli said softly. "We protect those we care about, and because I could not let you face this alone." Vara's eyes shimmered, a quiet reverence in her gaze. "Then you are more than I imagined, more than anyone could imagine." Eli smiled faintly, exhausted but alive. "And you," he said, "chose yourself. That is bravery beyond any war, beyond any orders. That is what makes you extraordinary." For the first time, they felt the weight of the universe lift slightly. Outside the station, stars continued to shine, indifferent, infinite. But inside, two beings, human and alien, had proven that courage, choice, and trust could overcome fear, duty, and even the deadliest odds. And in that quiet victory, Eli realized something powerful. Humanity was not just about strength, skill, or technology. Humanity was about heart, and that heart could protect worlds, one choice at a time.